Part 6. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 51. Chapter 51 Audacious. The village chief waved his hand and asked about the Lee family and everyone else. Everyone, think carefully, have any strangers come to our village before? Lee Lauer quickly looked at his family members one by one. Wu Kuiwa, who worried him the most, was all aside. Our family members are all here, so it's impossible to take Fu Niu away. People in the village looked at each other, and there were many of them. Someone said, could it be the Yanko dancers from the group just now? No, there are only 18 of them in total, and they have never left the village entrance, a veteran responded. He was a scout in the military camp back then, but now he has not lost his ability or vigilance. For a moment, everyone was silent. Is it really a ghost? Jiaxi and Jian hugged each other and cried bitterly. If they had not gone to watch the Yanko dance and stayed at home to watch over their sister would not have been lost. Jiaran's face was even more ashen. He took the initiative to look at his sister and even lost her sight. Look, even if there are no clues, look for it. Li Laosi stepped forward and saluted the villagers with a livid face. Please, fellow villagers, please help us in the search. Even if we have a few clues, our Li family will be very grateful. Oh, fourth brother, if you don't say this, we all live in the same village, and that's how it should be. Yes, men, bring your hatchets and axes, and let's go out of the village. Women and children are robbing the village. Everyone quickly assigned tasks and dispersed with a roar. At this moment, Uncle Zhao from next door came in from outside on crutches. Wait, fourth brother. He may have been walking in a hurry, so he took a few deep breaths and said again. I thought I saw your second daughter-in-law go to the woods behind to meet someone, then she returned home, took something, and gave it to that person. My old eyes are dim and I can't see very clearly. For fear of wrongly accusing her, I just went to check the footprints. It's definitely true, that person seems to have gone to the city. Li Lauer suddenly turned his head to look at Wu Kuiwa, his eyes bloodshot. Wu Kuiwa trembled like leaves in the wind, and her intestines had already become green with regret. Earlier, I had a hot idea, thinking that if my brother wins more money, he can pay off the debt. In the future, I don't have to come to her all the time to ask for money, so I gave Fu Niu to my younger brother for luck. Originally, I thought that after everyone went home after watching the Yanko dance, they discovered that it would not be long before she could take the child back. When the time comes, I will say, take him out to play. She is the eldest lady, coaxing her niece, who can say anything else. Unexpectedly, she was so happy just now that she forgot so much and went home together while talking. She had no chance to go out again. The whole family is so crazy, and everyone in the village is looking for the child, so she doesn't even dare to speak. Bitch, having been married for many years, Li Lauer was very familiar with Wu Kuiwa's virtues. Seeing her guilty look, there is something else I don't understand. He raised his hand and slapped Wu Kuiwa hard, causing Wu Kuiwa to fall to the ground. Finally, he pulled her directly and knelt in front of Mrs. Li. Tell me, was it you who took the child away? Mrs. Li rushed forward and pinched Wu Kuiwa's neck as if she was crazy. What on earth did you do to Fu Niu? Tell me quickly. Wu Kuiwa rolled her eyes because of the pinch. Before she could call for help, Li Laosi had already grabbed a hatchet and put it on her neck. If you dare to lie, I will chop off your head. The cold blade touched her neck, and Wu Kuiwa was completely frightened to pee. I said, ahem, it's Ergu. Ergu misses Fu Niu, so I'll give him a hug. Tao Hongying slapped her twice, gritting her teeth with hatred. Fu Niu is not Wu Ergu's child. What did he have in mind? Tell me, what happened? Where did my Fu Niu go? In his arms? Wu Kuiwa was still hesitant, but Tao Hongying was already running towards her. The arm was bitten. Ah, It hurts, it hurts. Wu Kuiwa screamed in pain, but did not dare to move. She still had a hatchet on her neck. I say, Ergu always loses money in gambling, and he wants to get lucky with Fu Niuer, so he has to change his fortune. Everyone thought that Wu Ergu was going to sell Fu Niuer, and that he hated the Li family and took revenge. But I never expected that it was actually for gambling to make money. Li Laosi held back, and the knife under his hand did not cut off Wu Kuiwa's head. Gamblers are not human beings at all. If you really win money while holding Fu Niuer, I'm afraid Fu Niuer will become a fat piece of meat that will be noticed by wolves in the future. If he loses money, will Wu Ergu throw Fu Niuer away directly, or kill her? No one dares to guess what stupid things a hopeless gambler can do. Let's go into the city. Yes, find Wu Ergu and bring Fu Niuer back. Old Mrs. Li turned around and went back to the house, took out the money and stuffed it into old Li's hand. Bring Fu Niuer back safely. If one hair is missing, our family will be finished. Li Laoer wanted to eat Wu Kuiwa alive. He gave the 2 taels of silver and actually harmed his niece. Mom, don't worry. Even if I die, I will bring Fu Niuer back. Li Lao Li Lao San, Li Lao Si, and Tao Hongying, together with the Jiaran family and the Yijie Huan, rushed directly into the wind and snow that started flying at an unknown time. The village chief was worried and took 4 or 5 villagers to chase him. Wu Kuiwa was about to breathe a sigh of relief as the knife was gone from her neck. Mrs. Li had already brought a basin of cold water and poured it on her to cool her heart. Mom, what are you doing? Although it is already the 1st month, it is still very cold. Wu Kuiwa sneezed hard and tried to get up shivering. Old Mrs. Li called Zhao Yuru, find a rope and tie her up. If Fu Niuer doesn't come back, she will stay frozen like this. Old Mrs. Li gritted her teeth and hit Wu Kuiwa on the head with a bucket. Fu Niuer is only 6 months old. She doesn't even wear a big coat, so she is handed over to Wu Ergu, a beast. It's still cold all the way to the city. Let her have a taste of it. Let's see if a girl is frozen, she can't even think about getting better. Zhao Yuru was so cruel that she found a rope and Wu Kuiwa like firewood. Wu Kuiwa struggled and refused, cursing and crying. Village people want to help, but they can't help. At this time, Jiaxi and Jian came out. The 2 boys crossed their arms and pulled their legs. Zhao Yuru quickly Wu Kuiwa and finally kicked her hard. Wu Kuiwa still wanted to curse, but Jian had already gone to the kitchen to find a rag and stuffed it directly into her mouth. Wu Kuiwa was shivering from the cold, feeling nauseous and wanting to retching, and could only writhe like maggots on the ground. The villagers swallowed secretly when they saw it. The Li family really couldn't afford to offend him. Whether they are old or children, they are all cruel and ruthless. Not to mention how the family disliked Wu Kuiwa, but that old man Li and others went straight to the county town. By chance, I saw Lu Baiatu at the city gate. He has a bold temperament, and he burst out laughing when he teased Li Laosi. Qiu Sheng, I was going to the village to find you, but you came here without thinking, haha, we 2 brothers have such a tacit understanding that we want to go together. Li Laosi forced a smile, but did not hide anything from him, and quickly told what happened at home. Finally, he clasped his fists and said, Brother Lu, I'm going to find the child first. I'll go to you for a drink later to apologize. He didn't want to, so Lu Baiatu just pulled him away and left. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 52. Chapter 52 The God of Fortune. I can't help with other things, but when it comes to going to the casino, I really want to follow you. I'm familiar with both casinos in the city. Without me to guide you, your family will be in trouble. Let's go, let's go. Come with me. He shouted, and everyone was overjoyed and quickly followed him. As expected, Lu Biatu was very familiar with it and went straight to the largest casino. The thugs at the casino gate saw Lu Biao leading so many people and thought they were causing trouble. They were all nervous. When I heard that I was looking for someone, I was relieved. But when Li Laosi mentioned that he was looking for a baby, they shook their heads like a rattle. Impossible, who can bring a child to a place like this? We were always at the door and didn't see it at all. Li Laosi didn't believe it, so Lu Biatu took him and Li Lao in to look for it. Sure enough, there was no trace of Wu Ergu, let alone any good news. Everyone decisively ran to the second casino. Jiyan was caught in Wu Ergu's arms at this moment, and she was so angry that she wanted to cry 3 times. She was obviously sleeping on the hot bed at home, with her grandma singing soft songs. Just waiting to wake up and have a nice bowl of custard. But halfway through sleeping, I was suddenly woken up by the cold. Finally she could understand the situation, and she was no longer calm. Why did she fall into Wu Ergu's hands? Moreover, you are still trapped under the creaking nest and rushing to the city? She didn't wrap herself up with a quilt, she only wore a homely jacket and trousers, and she didn't wear a hat either. Her scalp was numb from the cold. She wanted to cry, but she could only endure it with all her strength. Afraid of annoying Wu Ergu, he threw her directly into the snow den. It will really be over immediately. Fortunately, Li Ergu was also very cold and could walk quickly. Before she froze, she finally entered the city and got into the smoky little casino. She heard people laughing at Wu Ergu for bringing his children to gamble, and she also heard Wu Ergu bragging about how lucky she was and that she would definitely be able to help him make a fortune today. Needless to say, even a fool can guess it. There was a thief in the family, and he stole her out and gave her to Wu Ergu as a mascot. This person, there is no one else but Wu Kuiwa. This second aunt is doing everything in her power, and she is just a bystander, watching the joke. I didn't expect that today, she would actually become a victim. Wu Ergu was initially worried that the good news would cause him to cry and cause so much noise that the casino would kick him out. As a result, I watched the good news once or twice with my eyes closed. He is a grown man, but he doesn't know much about children. He just thinks that the good news is still sleeping, and gradually ignores it. Especially after winning 2 games at the beginning. It's on, 4, 5, 6, the dealer opened another dice. Wu Ergu jumped up on the chair excitedly and shouted crazily, I won, haha, I won. He hugged all the silver dimes and copper coins on the table to him, and finally picked up the good news next to him and kissed them hard. Haha, my sister was finally trustworthy and gave me this lucky doll, haha, this girl is really a money maker, if I had known, I would have brought her here. The gamblers next to me didn't believe it at first, but now they are excited. On weekdays, they have seen Wu Ergu lose so much that he almost took off his pants, but today he actually turned around. Whether they believed or not that this little girl in swaddling clothes could bring money, they all wanted to give it a try. Someone said, Wu Ergu, I'll pay you 100 cents and give this girl to me for half an hour. I'll give you 1 tael and give it to me all afternoon. I'll give you 2 liang, it'll be enough in an hour. Others also joined in the fun, and for a while, it seemed as if the little girl next to Wu Ergu had become a favorite. Wu Ergu was so proud. He had never had such a highlight moment in his life. He shouted to everyone, stay aside, don't delay my making a fortune. I will rent it to you when I win enough. At this time, he had already forgotten Wu Kuiwa's instructions for an hour. Some people have a bad temper, think they have some dignity, and their eyes are red, so they are going to be tough. Wu Ergu, I've given you some face, haven't I? You're just a little girl, give it to me, if you don't know how to behave, I'll tear your head off. Wu Ergu was reluctant to let go, but he really didn't dare to confront others head on. So he hugged the child tightly, very hesitantly. Jiyan didn't want to say anything at first, for fear of getting herself into trouble. But Wu Urgu was so strangled that she could hardly breathe, and could only struggle and cry loudly. Wu Urgu was startled and quickly lowered his head to look. Before he could speak, there was a loud bang at the door. The door of the casino was kicked open, and a dozen people rushed in. Fu Niuer. Li Laosi saw the child in Wu Urgu's arms at the first sight, and rushed forward in a few steps, directly protecting the child in his arms. Jiyan was choked with sobs. It was hard to see her father's face clearly, and she became more and more aggrieved and cried desperately. Finally saved. Li Laosi's distressed eyes were also red. Don't cry, Fu Niuer, Daddy is here, Daddy is here. At this time, Tao Hongying also rushed over, hugged her daughter, and cried loudly. Fu Niuer, Wu Wu, Mom is here, Mom is sorry for you, Mom didn't take good care of you. The couple guarded the child and burst into tears. How fearful and worried I was before, I feel so sad now. Even though the child is in their arms and can hear, see, and touch, it still cannot immediately soothe their despair and fear. The gamblers don't know what's going on, but everyone is the son of a father. Seeing how pitiful the family of three was, they endured their annoyance at being interrupted. Those who said they wanted to rent the children were still a little embarrassed and left. Wu Urgu wanted to leave even more, but as soon as he moved, Li Laosi pulled his belt off and lifted him above his head. Everyone gasped when they saw it. Before they could scream, Wu Urgu was thrown to the ground hard and screamed in pain. Li Laosi wanted to step forward and continue beating him, but Li Laoer and Lu Biatu stopped him. Brother, tie the person back before we start talking, so we don't want to cause trouble here. Of course Li Laosi also knew, but the fire in his chest made him want to kill Wu Urgu. Tao Hongying hugged her daughter tightly and turned around to see an old teapot on the table. So, she picked it up and hit Wu Urgu the head. Wu Urgu rolled his eyes and passed out. Li Laosi and others quickly Wu Urgu and dragged him out. Li Laoer took out a silver dime from his pocket, put it on the table, and bowed with everyone. Brothers, I'm sorry for delaying everyone's fortune. The child was stolen from the house, and the old man was so scared that he almost died. Don't blame me for not caring about etiquette for a moment. This silver will buy a new teapot. When we meet again in the future, I will definitely treat my brothers to a drink to make amends. I'll take my leave today and continue to make a fortune. After saying that, he withdrew, joined the family members at the door, and left quickly. The casino was silent for a long time before it became alive again. Some stewards and thugs from the casino came up to take the money and couldn't help but sigh. Which child did Wu Urgu steal? Everyone is a ruthless person, and even women dare to do it. Yes, that man is also very strong and can lift people up directly. Wu Urgu is unlucky. But that kid is really rich, and Wu Urgu won a lot. What's the point of bringing money? It's just a girl's film, it's probably a coincidence. That's true. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 53. Chapter 53 Life-Saving Pills. I don't want to talk about what everyone in the casino was talking about. I just said that everyone left the casino and didn't want to attract people to watch. So we directly rented 2 carriages and hurried back to Qingshui village. Bodyguard Lu knew it was a family matter of the Li family and refused to get involved anymore. He just gave a few instructions and returned to the bodyguard station. Li Laosi didn't stay long, after all, his family was still waiting. The others are doing better, but I am afraid that something will happen to the old lady. The group of people urged the driver to drive faster and arrived at Qingshui village in 2/4 of an hour. Gx's family was stationed at the entrance of the village when they saw Tao Hongying get out of the car and held good news in her arms. They ran home like crazy, their tears falling into the wind. "Milk, my sister has been found, found. Dad, mother, my sister is back." When the people in the village heard the commotion, they rushed out one after another, all rejoicing. "This is great, we can get Fu Niuer back. A person who has been killed by 1,000 cuts in this cold weather, the child must have suffered." Everyone followed the Li family, wanting to see what happened. Mrs. Guo and her daughter-in-law stood at the door, curling their lips and cursing secretly. A girl's film is like a treasure. If you throw it anywhere, you will freeze to death. It also saves food. The same goes for Suniang and Chunhong, especially Suniang, who gave birth to the only grandson of the Lu family. At this time, she rubbed her son's head and replied, "No matter how good the girl is, she will have to get married in the future." Chunhong gave birth to a daughter. She glared at her sister-in-law and said nothing. In the yard of Li's house, Mrs. Li stumbled out when she heard that her granddaughter was back. She lost all her shoes and stepped on the snow with her bare feet, not feeling cold at all until her soft granddaughter was held in her arms again. Jiyan had been crying for a while, but when she saw the grandmother who loved her the most, her grievances overflowed again. "Ah, ah, ah," she cried loudly at the top of her voice. It seems like he wants to cry out the grievances, panic and despair in his heart. "I was sleeping soundly, but when I woke up, it was stolen. Lying in the smoky casino, I was afraid that if I accidentally angered the gamblers, it would end badly." She didn't even dare to say she was hungry, even to pee. Don't cry, you're a lucky girl. It's your fault, Grandma doesn't think much of you, we of you. Damn it, Mrs. Li was also crying so hard that she was out of breath and felt distressed. Who is the head of the family, what is strong and cold, none of it matters now. She just wanted to hold her granddaughter and never let go for the rest of her life. You should know that she has been with her granddaughter day and night since she was born. Just this time, I lost my granddaughter because I was greedy for Yanko. Grandma isn't going anywhere, so she'll be watching over you. Ugh, it's all Grandma's fault." On one side, Tao Hongying, Zhao Yuru and even the young and old men in the family all wiped away their tears. The villagers quickly tried to persuade her, "Just get the child back and go into the house quickly." At this moment, Mrs. Li remembered that her granddaughter was not wrapped in a quilt, so she turned around and ran into the house. Tao Hongying followed her to breastfeed, and Zhao Yura quickly went to boil hot water for everyone to drink to warm themselves up. The villagers were curious and asked what was going on. After all, there was Wu Ergu lying on the ground. Without the Li family's words, the village chief and the few villagers who followed him talked it over. This conscienceless beast actually took the child to the casino. Yeah, just throw it on the table and watch them gamble. Wu Ergu really won a lot, which made people jealous. There are still people who want to buy the child for use, which really makes people angry. What does such a young child know? It was God's care that Wu Ergu won. If he loses, this child's life may not be saved. The more people listened, the more angry they became, and they rushed to Wu Ergu to spit. Li Laosi wanted to step forward and beat him up, but Li Laosan hugged him. It's not that Li Laosan feels sorry for Wu Ergu, it's that Laosi is too strong. If he accidentally beats someone to death, the family will be in trouble. At this time, the advantages of being young are evident. Gxi Jian touched the sweeping broom somewhere and greeted Wu Ergu in a daze. "Let you steal my sister? I asked you to take my sister to gamble, and I'll beat you to death. 2.5 of the sons are limited, but they are more painful." Wu Ergu was gagged and whimpered for mercy. Unfortunately, no one helped to intercede. In the end, Li Laoer saw that it was almost done and asked people to lock Wu Ergu into the east wing. Wu Kuiware was also bundled with rice dumplings and thrown to the ground. This is good, the two siblings are keeping company. The villagers said a few words and then dispersed when they saw the sky getting dark. The Li family ate hastily, watching the good news and teasing her to play, fearing that she would get into trouble. Unfortunately, things went counterproductive. The good news is dull, I can't cheer up, and I can't chew my feet anymore. After a while, her little face turned red. Tao Hongying only touched a handful and started shouting anxiously. Mom, Fu Niu has a fever. Old Mrs. Li quickly put her hand on her granddaughter's forehead and her expression changed. It must have been freezing on the way back and forth, and I was so frightened that I lost my soul. Hurry and wet the handkerchief and get some warm water. The whole family is busy with fever because of the good news, hoping that the fever will go away quickly. However, as he stayed up until the third watch, Ji Yin's face became increasingly red and her breathing was hot to the touch. Tao Hongying's eyes were swollen from crying, and Mrs. Li couldn't hold on any longer. Go to the village chief's house to borrow a car, and we'll wait at the city gate. As soon as the door opens in the morning, we'll go into the city to find the doctor. Ji Yi came in from the outside with a somewhat complicated look on his face. He wanted to say something, but when he heard this, he shut up again. Good news is really uncomfortable at this time. She felt like an ant in a hot pot, burning to the point of drying out inside and out. She vaguely heard that her family was going to the city overnight, so she pulled her grandma's sleeves tightly. It's not that she is being pretentious, it's that she really can't believe the doctors in this world. Perhaps the doctors here have real skills and are not comparable to those liars in previous lives? But she is less than half a year old, so she is too young. If the dosage of any medicine is not controlled properly, she could easily die. In times like this, you still have to save yourself. She tried her best to cheer up and rummaged through the boxes of commonly used medicines in the small courtyard. Finally, she found a fever-reducing medicine that both adults and children can use. She tried her best to break the pill into two halves, put it into her grandma's hand, and then fell asleep. Old Mrs. Li was startled when she suddenly had a lot in her hand. When I lowered my head and looked carefully, I found that it was a small white object with two halves. She has been with her granddaughter for a long time and has developed a tacit understanding. Hongying, bring me a spoon and warm water. Tao Hongying cried so hard that her eyes were swollen to the point of slits. She was busy picking up the bedding, thinking about putting it on the donkey cart to prevent her daughter from getting cold again. Hearing the old lady's instructions, she subconsciously did it. Soon, half a small white tablet was placed in the spoon and melted with water. The old lady was so cruel that she fed Ji Yin into her mouth and gave her a lot of water to drink. The family didn't know what the white tablets were and didn't dare to ask, so they just stayed aside. Li Laosi has borrowed a donkey cart and returned. The village chief was worried and came to inquire. Old Mrs. Li drove them to sit in the main room, then hugged her granddaughter and hoped for a miracle to happen. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 54. Chapter 54 10 Years of Hard Work. Jian was young and couldn't bear it anymore, so she lay down on the edge of the Kong and fell asleep. No one in the rest of the family dared to sleep a wink. Children's lives are too fragile. How many ravines outside the city haven't lost a few lives? They really dare not think about what will happen to their family if the good news is good or bad. Fortunately, Ji Yin found the antipyretic medicine, which worked quickly. Within a quarter of an hour, she began to sweat, and her hair stuck to her forehead. Okay, sweating will reduce the fever. Mrs. Li was so happy that she went crazy. Tao Hongying and Zhao Yuru hugged each other and wiped their tears, then quickly found jackets and pants to change from Ji Yin's. After struggling like this for half an hour, Ji Yin's fever completely subsided. She opened her eyes in a daze, smiled weakly at her grandma, and then got into her mother's arms to nurse. Orange Mrs. Lee hurriedly went out to announce the good news, and everyone in the hall cheered in low voices. "Oh, it's finally better. That's great, Fu Niu is blessed with great fortune and great fortune." The village chief felt relieved and went back after giving a few instructions. Everyone wanted to go back to their rooms to sleep, but Ji Yi knelt in front of the old lady. "Miscellaneous, my mother also has a severe fever and has started talking nonsense. Can you give my mother some of the medicine my sister takes?" Ji Yi lowered his head firmly, perhaps knowing that this was wrong, and was choked with sobs at the end. Wu Kuiwa has many bad things, but she is always his biological mother, the mother who gave birth to him and raised him. He can't just watch his mother die of illness. The room was as quiet as death, and everyone felt complicated, especially Li Laoer and Jiaren who had just learned the news. After a long time, Mrs. Li finally spoke. "Boy, go and see what's going on." Li Laoer quickly opened the door and went out, followed by Jiaren. In the east wing, Wu Kuiwa has been untied. But her face was red with fever, and she was talking nonsense. Not to mention running away, I couldn't even move. Jiaren and Ji Yi looked at each other with complicated expressions. One poured water and the other helped the old woman up. Li Laoer felt so uncomfortable that he turned around and left. When he saw his mother when he went back, he sighed, "Mom, Wu Kuiwa's fever is really severe." Old Mrs. Li opened her palm, revealing the remaining half of a small pill. To be honest, she was reluctant to part with it. This was a magic medicine that her granddaughter found somewhere. "I don't know if I can find it again in the future, so I always have it at home, just in case. But Wu Kuiwa is his son's wife and the mother of 2 grandsons, so we can't watch her burn into a fool. Forget it, give her this medicine. When she is fine, you can bring GR and GE over. I have something to say." Old Mrs. Li handed the pills to her son and turned back to the house. Li Laoer hurried to the wing. When the sky was bright, everyone in the Li family had black eyes after having been working hard all night. But Jiyan has no fever again, and is still a little wilted, but his illness has gone away. Wu Kuiwa in the side room also had her fever gone. She said she had no taste in her mouth and wanted to drink porridge. Unfortunately, everyone gathered in the main room and no one paid attention to her. Old Mrs. Li was smoking her pipe and pot, and the letter of divorce was placed on the table. "I am an old lady who doesn't understand the truth. I just think that no one can do bad things all the time without being punished." Wu Kuiwa stole Fu Niu out this time and didn't care about Fu Niu's life or death at all. She is no longer stupid, she is vicious, she just doesn't care about our Li family at all. If we keep her at home any longer, I'm afraid our family will be ruined in the future. But after all, she gave birth to Jiaren and Ji. Jiaren wanted to study and take exams, and he couldn't have a divorced mother. She sighed and looked at her son and daughter-in-law. "Second brother, I will go to the city to find a place in a while, the kind of hard labor that provides food and accommodation, it doesn't matter how much the salary is, and I will sign a 10-year contract. Send her there today. From now on, if she can earn a living, she will live. If she cannot, she will die and have nothing to do with the family anymore." Jiaren Ji knelt on the ground, his eyes were red, and he choked on what he wanted to say. "I have done such an evil thing, so I deserve to be divorced. But grandma treated my mother for them, and in the end she just pushed her to live in the city without giving her a divorce certificate. Mistress, we will definitely be filial to you in the future." Mrs. Li waved her hands and sighed. "You are good boys, but it's a pity that you didn't get a good mother. I don't care what you do to me in the future, but if you are thinking about today, you must take good care of Fu Niu. Your mother is stupid, I'm afraid she doesn't feel that she is wrong. The debt she owes must be repaid by your brothers. As sons, you have done your best to be kind and righteous. From now on, you can just pretend that you don't have this mother. Milk. Grnge cried out, feeling guilty and grievances caught in the middle. The matter was settled like that. Even if Li Laozi and Tao Hongying were angry again, they were much better because Wu Kuiwa was kicked out. Wu Kuiwa was lying on the kong, perhaps feeling that she had someone to rely on when she was sick. She shouted again and again, and finally called Ji Yi to bring her a bowl of porridge. She thought that yesterday's incident was over, so she complained to her son while drinking porridge. Your grandma is really making a fuss. It's just your uncle carrying Fu Niu out to play for a while. Whose child is so delicate that relatives can't even hug her? Hurry and go find your father and your brother, help intercede, and free your uncle. What's the point of being like this? Isn't that little girl's film ready? Not a hair is missing. Wu Erguer had already had the rag pulled out of his mouth. Now he was lying on the kong, rolled to the edge of the kong, and was also shouting. Nephew, please untie it for me quickly. When my uncle wins money, he will buy you candies. Unfortunately, Ji Yi ignored him at all, lowered his head, took the bowl and left. At this time, Wu Kuiwa and her sister waited until noon. Wu Ergu was very hungry and made a lot of noise, so the door of the house was opened. Li Laozi mentioned him and left. Wu Kuiwa was so frightened that before she could shout a few times, Tao Hongying and Zhao Yuru also came in. The two men tied her hands and feet and began to drag her out. What are you doing? Wu Kuiwa was so frightened that she was eventually thrown into a donkey cart and placed in a pile with Wu Ergu. Li Laozi drove the car, and Li Laoer sat on the shaft of the car and quickly left the village. We arrived at the county town in just half an hour, and the donkey cart reached the most dilapidated shanty town in the north of the city. An old lady was waiting in front of a low house when she saw Li Laoer arriving. She glanced at Wu Kuiwa with some disgust and said, "Looks like he is a lazy guy." Li Laoer responded, "Don't worry, ma'am, she will be under your control after she is sent to you. If she doesn't work well, it's up to you whether she'll be beaten, scolded, or starved. Our family will treat her as dead and we won't interfere in the slightest." The old lady reluctantly nodded and took out a deed. Li Laoer took Wu Kuiwa's thumb and made a fingerprint. Li Laozi grabbed Wu Kuiwa and Wu Ergu and threw them into the yard. Then, the two brothers left without looking back. Wu Kuiwa still didn't know what was going on, so she sat on the ground angrily, slapping her thighs and crying. "You heartless thing, I gave you two sons. Wow, you just threw them out like this." The old lady didn't listen at all and threw a basin of dirty clothes in front of the two of them with a bang. 10 basins of clothes must be washed out in one day, and if one is missing, there will be no food. Wu Kuiwa glared and asked, "Why should I wash your clothes?" The old lady shook off the deed paper in her hand and said, "Your family sold you to me to do hard labor for 10 years. Don't play tricks on me. If you dare to run away, I'll break your legs." Wu Kuiwa gasped, 10 years of hard work. She fainted as soon as she rolled her eyes, but Wu Ergu endured the pain and got up and asked, "My sister works, does she get paid, and how much is it per month?" The old lady rolled her eyes at him, 100 yuan a month, the Li family has already taken away a year's wages. Wu Ergu was disappointed when he heard that he had no money. He turned around and walked out without even looking at his unconscious sister. He wasn't sold into the business, and he wasn't the one doing the hard work. He might as well go to a gambling house and try his luck. Wu Kuiwa was awakened by the old lady's ladle of cold water, and she really regretted it. She thought that this mistake would pass easily, and that at most she would get a beating. But unexpectedly, she was really kicked out of the house. After 10 years of hard work, will she still be alive? She simply spilled the beans, broke the pot and smashed it, but she could not get up. But the old lady was not from the Li family, so she was beaten, and then locked in a broken room without food for 3 days. When he opened the door again, Wu Kuiwa had already crawled out, desperately begging her to work. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 55. Chapter 55, Restarting the Magic Game. I won't talk about how Wu Kuiwa lived, but the Li family took 2 or 3 days to recover. Good news, the fever has gone down and I can eat and drink now. Everyone felt relieved and began to eat and sleep with peace of mind. The dark circles under my eyes have finally gone away, and I don't have to worry anymore. Jiaxi Jian finally went out to play with her friends, but was caught by the villagers and questioned for a long time. I heard that the good news is much better, and the villagers are also happy. The poor child is really suffering. That's right, not even half a year old yet. San Aunt Wu was warm-hearted and had good relations with the Li family. She took the initiative to go to the next village and find a 70-year-old old lady to write a gohanma. When it was time to deliver it to Li's house, I received heartfelt thanks from Mrs. Li's wife and daughter-in-law. They were actually worried that the good news would frighten them, and they wanted to collect their souls. But I just moved here not long ago, and I don't know any old people who can write this kind of thing. Unexpectedly, Aunt Wu Sanzi helped solve the problem. Wu Sanzi was cheerful and kept waving her hands. They are all trivial matters, not worth mentioning. I have watched Fu Niu grow up, so I am not willing to let her suffer. Old Mrs. Li sighed, it's unfortunate that our family has such a troublemaker. But because of our children and grandchildren, we can't really divorce. Aunt Wu San patted her hand to persuade her. Oh, old sister, every family has 1 or 2 bad children. You are good. Except for this, the other children, grandchildren, and wives are all filial. And there is such a good granddaughter that no one else can envy. Jiyan was wearing a coat and trousers, leaning on the quilt. From time to time there was a sound of ah, echoing to Aunt Wu San. She was taken away this time, which really frightened the old lady. Even when I go to bed at night, I have to touch her more than 10 times for fear of losing her again. If this continues, she will be cured, but the old lady will have the root cause of her illness. Old Mrs. Li pulled off the cotton towel to wipe her granddaughter's saliva and sighed softly. I hope that this child will have some troubles when he was a child, and that he will be safe and healthy when he grows up. Going to the city first, Lu Biatu was a big help. The village chief also brought the villagers to support him. It is impossible for the Li family not to thank them, so Li Lao Er and Li Lao Si went to the city specially. Li Lao Si went to invite Mr. Lu to come to his house for dinner tomorrow, and Li Lao Er went to do some shopping. The New Year's pork has been eaten, so I'll buy another 10 jins. The pork ribs were less meaty and cheaper, so I bought half a fan. There are also pigs in the water. It is rare to encounter them, so there is also a set. Forget about the japonica rice, I still have some at home, but I need to buy more fine flour. The sorghum shaku is also coming to 2 altars, Lu Darthead and village people like. At noon, the 2 brothers met at the city gate and hurried home. Jiyan was carried around the house by her grandma, while Jian Jiaxi followed behind and made faces. Jiyan chuckled from time to time to cheer up his brother. Seeing that Mr. Li had brought so many things in, Mrs. Li hurried up to greet him. By the way, I also read good news over and over again, and the more I read it, the more distressed I became. These things are all available in her small courtyard. It's a pity that I have been so frightened these days that I have no intention of paying more attention to my family. Tonight, I still have to play magic games with my grandma again. Old Mrs. Li held her granddaughter in Diandian's hands, even though she felt sorry for Hua Yinzi, she still endured it. Tao Hongying and Zhao Yuru came in from the outside, and she gave them careful instructions. Our family is saying thank you, and we must be sincere and not stingy. Tomorrow we will steam a pot of thin noodle steamed buns and give them to the guests. We can just eat liang he noodles at home. In addition, prepare some dishes and don't be afraid of wasting oil and meat. It's rare for someone to stand up for our family at a critical moment. If our family doesn't know how to be grateful, we won't be able to find anyone if something happens in the future. Yes, mother, don't worry, I will definitely make arrangements. Tao Hongying quickly agreed, looked at the things carefully, and named several dishes. Mom, my second brother bought a lot of meat and made a braised pork stew with dried vegetables. Then go to Aunt Wu's house to get some sauerkraut and stew sauerkraut pork ribs. We also have rabbits, so we can add another meat dish. Pigs are put into the water, and the liver is cooked and dipped in minced garlic. The rest is marinated and served with wine. That's 5. Add another cabbage, stir-fried fungus, and fried green onions and eggs. Finally add a shredded radish meatball soup. Do you think it will work? Okay, let's arrange it like this. Do as much of everything as possible. Mrs. Lee was very satisfied with her daughter-in-law's craftsmanship and added, remember to fry some more dried fruits, don't leave them empty-handed if there are children coming. Good. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law discussed it and started to get busy. Pig waste is delicious to eat, but difficult to clean up. Do it in advance to save yourself a busy day tomorrow. That night, after dinner, pig offal was stewed in the big stove in the kitchen. The good news was lying on the old lady's shoulder. She always stretched her head and looked out greedily, and her saliva flowed like a river. Mrs. Lee guessed it and burst out laughing. Little greedy cat, there's nothing this grandma can do about it. No matter how greedy you are, you can't eat any more. Jian kicked her little feet angrily and rolled over on the bed. Old Mrs. Lee had no choice but to call her grandson to the kitchen to say something. Chop the ribs into pieces, throw them into the pot and braise them together tomorrow. You can satisfy your sister's appetite and taste them. Jiaxi and Jian hurriedly ran to the kitchen to deliver the message. My sister hadn't grown her teeth yet, so she could only taste the food, and the rest would still be a blessing to them. There are people in the village who go to bed late, smelling the aroma wafting from Li's house. People of all ages are also salivating with greed. This daughter-in-law of the Li family is really good at her craftsmanship. Yeah, I don't know what to do, this is too fragrant. Of course, they didn't have to guess for long, and the whole village knew about it the next day. Lu Biatu has a forthright temper, and his wife is even more attentive. Speaking of wanting to be a guest at Li's house, it was still because of the incident of losing the child before. So, Mrs. Lu prepared a generous souvenir. Lu Biatu carried his son and hired a carriage to Qingshui village. At this time, everyone in the village had already arrived. Originally planned to help, but the Li family was almost ready. Everybody gathered together and chatted in the increasingly warm sun. None of the Li brothers were left behind, so they all came to the door to pick up Lu Biao. Not to mention, he helped find good news before. Even when Lao Si and Ji Yi went out as escorts, they still received good care from others. Lu Biatu is a tall man with a red face and a high voice. Wearing a narrow-sleeved jacket and trousers, paired with a black cloak, he looked quite brave. The boy from the Lu family is called Lu Yang. He is from the same family and has a fat body. He always has a smile on his face when he meets everyone. The villagers couldn't help but stand up when they saw it, wondering when the Li family had made friends with such a person. The village chief was familiar with several villagers who entered the city that day. They all greeted him and walked in surrounded by Lu Biatu and his son. Mrs. Li stood at the door holding the good news. When she saw Mr. Lu was about to salute, she quickly stopped her. Lu Biatu, it was thanks to your blessing that I found Fu Niur. Fu Niur is still young, so I should hold her in my arms and salute you. As she spoke, the old lady would bend down. Lu Biatu stretched out his big hand and helped the old lady sit down. Auntie, don't be so polite. I am worthy of brother Chiu's hung, and you are also my elder. How can an elder salute a younger one? You always think of me well, just let Chiu Sheng go out with me a few more times in the future. You don't know, having him with the team has helped me a lot. Who doesn't like his son being praised? Mrs. Lee's eyes became deeply wrinkled when she smiled. Okay, okay. As long as you think highly of him, let him go out with you more and learn more. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 56. Chapter 56. Let's have a daughter too. Everyone sat down for a while. Lu Biao looked at the good news and asked, "How is our girl?" "She looks good." Ji Yin stared at Lu Biao with bright eyes, stretched out her hand and ran to his side. Old Mrs. Li handed her granddaughter over smoothly, and Officer Lu subconsciously took it and regretted it. A 6-month-old child, soft, chubby, and a small ball. His big palm-like hands don't even know where to put them. Ji Yin felt his panic, giggled and hugged his neck tightly. In this way, you can lie on his chest. Lu Biao simply lay half on his back to make Ji Yin lie down more comfortably and avoid falling. Looking at such a brave man, being scared like this by a little girl. Everyone was laughing so hard, Ji Yin thought it was funny, and of course she was really grateful to this man. Not only did he help her a lot at home, that day, when she was desperate and frightened, he was the one who took the lead and rushed into the casino. A child who is 5 or 6 months old cannot say that she cannot do anything. She can only express her closeness in this way. Lu Biao carefully protected the meat dumplings on his chest, and his heart felt like a puddle of water. It turns out that the child was so cute when he was a child and so warm when held in his arms. Unfortunately, when my son was young, he was always out and about. It seems that when I regained consciousness, my son was already 7 or 8 years old. Thinking about it this way, I really owe something to my son. Lu Yang, who was sitting at the door and joking quietly with Ji Yi, suddenly felt a chill on his back. Ji Yi turned him around and asked, "What's wrong?" "We're going to be escorting again soon. Your father allows you to follow." Lu Yang immediately grimaced, "I begged several times, but my dad doesn't agree. You must help me beg again, and then we will go out together." "Okay, I'll look for an opportunity." The two were chatting lively, and Lu Biao called his son, "Son, bring what your mother prepared." Lu Yang responded and handed over the package next to him. Lu Biao carefully handed the good news to Mrs. Li, and then opened the package. "Mom, my wife has prepared something for Fu Niu. It's not something expensive, so don't dislike it." In the package is a set of small coats and trousers, and a small quilt. The coat and trousers are crimson color with light yellow flowers embroidered on them. The small quilt is fresh green with blue flowers embroidered on it. The materials are fine and soft, and the stitching is fine. At first glance, it is a good thing prepared with care. Mrs. Li was so happy that she thanked her profusely. "Oh, Brother Yang is so tired. This is so beautiful. I also like the good news." I hold my little hands together and bow to say thank you. As a result, she forgot that her waist was still too weak and almost fell down. Lu Biao raised his head in panic. Li Laosi introduced everyone in the room to Lu Biao. The village chief, the villagers who helped that day, and several old men like Uncle Zhao next door. Lu Biao knew that the Li family had only been in the village for more than 4 months. Being able to get along so well with the villagers in such a short period of time shows that the Li family must be thoughtful and benevolent in their actions. He became more and more determined to visit more with the Li family in the future. After chatting a few more words, we started to set the table for dinner. The main room of the Li family is very spacious. Once the doors of the east and west rooms are opened, 3 tables of banquets can be placed easily. Lu Biao, Li Lao Li Lao Si, the village chief, and several old men were sitting at the same table. The east room is occupied by several villagers, accompanied by Li Lao-san, who is most familiar with them. The west room is dominated by the boys. The family is benevolent and the family is righteous, and the family is happy and safe. I accompany Liu Yang and take away Mrs. Li and good news. As for the family fun, he has been busy in the kitchen. Tao Hongying is always good at her craftsmanship, but she is extra attentive this time. As soon as the dishes were served, everyone was surprised. Not to mention, everything is delicious, and the dishes are really too big. Pork ribs stewed with pickled cabbage and braised pork with dried vegetables are both served in small earthenware pots. The remaining dishes are also the largest, and the presentation is more beautiful. Mrs. Li greeted everyone, "Don't be polite when you are at home. Eat first, then drink. Be careful not to feel uncomfortable drinking on an empty stomach. You wives should blame me when you go back." Everyone laughed and shouted. "Don't worry, ma'am, there are so many delicious foods, who cares about drinking, let's satisfy our greed first." That's what I say, but there is no man who doesn't like drinking. Only half full, everyone picked up the wine bowls. It becomes even more lively when you drink the spicy sorghum shaku. Everyone opened up their chat boxes and talked about what was new in the outside world. Talking about spring plowing soon, what to plant in the fields, the court's high grain tax, and even the war in the north. The women in the village had dinner at home and couldn't help their curiosity, so they joined in to listen to the fun. The naughty boys even followed me in and secretly swallowed their saliva. Old Mrs. Li asked Jia and Jiaxi to take the dried fruits and distribute them out. The naughty boys were so happy that they wanted to jump 3 feet high. Tao Hongying took the time to go into the house and take a look at the needlework sent by the Lu family, and was very happy. Back in the kitchen, she thought about her return gift. There are 2 smoked rabbits and 1 smoked venison leg at home, but these are not enough, and it is Lu Baiatu's wife who has to thank them. Fortunately, there is still some dough, fresh tofu, and some soaked fungus left. So she quickly steamed a dozen vegetarian buns, deep-fried meatballs, and spring roll boxes. Finally put it into a new basket and cover it with a clean cotton cloth. In the end, what she prepared was a return gift, but it was also used as an apprenticeship ceremony, which came in handy. It turns out that Lu Baiatu was talking about escorting in a few days. The family is doing spring plowing, and Li Laozi can't go this time, so he asks Ji to follow him. Lu Baiatu loved talents and saw that Ji and his son got along well, so he opened his mouth to accept a disciple. Of course Ji is willing, and the Li family has a tacit understanding for a long time. On the spot, Ji knelt down, kowtowed, and offered tea. Old Mrs. Li hurriedly came out to find her daughter-in-law and join in the apprenticeship ceremony. Those prepared by Tao Hongying happen to be requisitioned, but they are still a little weak. After having eaten and drank enough, Jiyan, who was drowsy, was carried to the west wing. "Fu Niuer, do you have any fruit? Can you bring some out? Your third brother is a disciple, and we have nothing to give as gifts." Mrs. Li was only halfway through her words, and she was still worried about whether her granddaughter would understand. As a result, a bag of dates, a basket of apples, and a basket of pears suddenly appeared in front of her. Jiyan saw that grandma was silent and took out 2 more live fish. "That's enough, that's enough." Mrs. Li was splashed with water by the live fish, turned around immediately, and quickly stopped her. "Your mother will also prepare it, add 2 fish and 2 baskets of fruit will be enough." Jiyan yawned, leaned on her grandma's shoulder, and fell asleep instantly. Orange Mrs. Li gently supported her granddaughter, then called her daughter-in-law and quickly cleaned up. When Lu Baiatu and his son returned home, the apprenticeship gifts sent by the Li family filled half the carriage. Mrs. Lu picked up her drunken husband and was shocked by these things. After all, she gave away some needles and thread, and the Li family returned too many. It was her son who answered her question, My father has accepted Ji as his apprentice. This is the apprenticeship ceremony prepared by Ji's grandma. At this moment, Mrs. Lu understood and her impression of the Li family became a little better. Lu Yang took a few fruits and ran away, leaving her to serve her drunken husband. Unexpectedly, she was pulled directly onto the bed. "Madam, let's have a daughter too. The Li family's little lucky girl is soft and fat." Unknown to the Li family, Lu Biatu embraced the good news and started Mrs. Liu's journey of trying every possible means to have a daughter. After seeing off the guests, we finally finished cleaning up the house. Everyone, old and young, was very tired. That's good news. She woke up bored and gnawed on her toes to take care of her small yard. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, delayed flowering. Chapter 57. Chapter 57. The unchanged purpose of the courtyard. After years of unremitting efforts, 5 acres of land have now been harvested. Potatoes were put into more than a dozen sacks and thrown directly into the warehouse. Corn is also turned into corn kernels, and some are even ground into corn meal. Thinking about the sweet corn tortillas will make you want to eat the good news. But no, this corn flour is prepared for so many mouths in the small courtyard, she has no share at all. The 4 little piglets are not well fed on weekdays. Most of the time, they are thrown in a few cabbages to deal with them. So, they don't grow very fast. Half a year has passed and it is only 80 or 90 pounds, which is very pitiful. In the future, with cornmeal, you can gain weight. However, if you want to eat meat, you can't. 4 little piglets, when I bought them, I specially picked 2 males and 2 females. Daji from the countryside of his hometown are native pigs raised by fellow villagers nearby. It does not grow as fast as those specially bred for fattening pigs, but the meat is more fragrant. Even the boar has not been bred and has maintained its fertility. I look forward to the good news and take good care of him for another 2 years. The 2 young piglets will fall in love and then have children. When her children have children, she will have endless pork to eat. Just thinking about it makes me excited. The 4 little pigs didn't know that because of their fertility, they escaped the fate of being knifed soon. The ducks and geese are also pretty good. Wandering around every day, finding some snacks for myself, and some vegetables and leaves are enough. 1 egg a day, occasionally 1 every 2 days. A group of model workers have already filled the Li family's salted egg jar with 2. It was the chicks who lived the happiest life. 2 roosters, each with a harem of 7 or 8 hens, could half fly with their wings. They often ran to the fields behind to steal corn to eat, and each ate smoothly. It's just the beginning of spring, and already some hens have laid down more than 20 eggs. It can't be said that within a month, there will be dozens of fluffy chicks in the small courtyard. This is why Jiyan held back her saliva and never thought of killing chickens except to replenish her mother's body while fleeing the desert. Long-term planning and sustainable development are the constant purpose of the courtyard. Now I am waiting for my family to start farming, and then I will plant 3 acres of sorghum, 1 acre of potatoes, and 1 acre of corn. Sorghum is used to supplement the family's field output, and potatoes and corn are used to feed chickens and pigs. Corn stalks and corn husks can both make fire. It will come in handy when the time comes to cook cooked food for the pigs. In addition to these, Jiyan also added a big job to himself, which was to find stones around the 5 acres of land, and even removed all the stones for the courtyard wall behind. She cleaned all the stones and placed them in the middle of the yard. The most conspicuous location is also the most accessible location. This is the self-protection method she prepared for herself, but unfortunately, she hasn't had a chance to practice it yet. Otherwise, she wanted to see if she could move the stones out. It is best to appear at an altitude of more than 10 meters and land on the target accurately. Let alone a human being, a cow can be killed immediately. I have to say that Wu Ergo secretly took her to the casino, which still left a shadow on her heart. That kind of powerless fear, she didn't want to experience it a second time. Season is a magical thing. A few years ago, the cold wind cut my face and I was too cold to hold it. But once the Chinese New Year is over, less than a month before and after, the weather changes drastically. The cold wind is gentler, and the sun is brighter and warmer. On the hillside and in the ground, the snow melted rapidly, returning the original color of the sky and the earth, faintly filled with vitality. The boys were not allowed to go to the river. From time to time, the old lady would pick up the ears of those who were disobedient and beat them until they screamed. The Li family doesn't have to do this, because the lessons of Jiexi and Jian are so profound that they have a long memory. The 10 acres of land purchased by the Li family had been abandoned for 2 years and had a lot of weeds growing on it. The brothers of the Li family took some work early and went to the fields to cut grass and burn wasteland. Jiaran has already started school. He has brought the food prepared by his family, as well as the change for 3 months of training in the spring and food. Ji Yi was taken away by Lu Biatu before the first month of the year. I heard that it's not far this time and you can make a round trip in a month. Jia Huan followed her mother Zhao Yuru and Aunt Tao Hongying and went out to cook the stove twice more. He is now a qualified kitchen helper, good at chopping and garnishing vegetables. Tao Hongying and Zhao Yuru discussed it and often let Jia Huan cook at home. Don't worry about whether it tastes good or not, it's all our own, no one can pick it. Humanistically speaking, there are not many people who can work in the fields. Only the second child, the third child, and the fourth child were left, along with the 2 boys Jiexi and Jian. Fortunately, the Li family only bought 10 acres of land. With Li Laoxi's natural power, he can handle 3 of them, so he is quite busy. The people in the village were not in a hurry at first, but when they saw the Li family taking action, they all became busy. Ji Yin was so anxious that he was rolling around in the room, it was really boring. She wants to go out. But the weather outside was still too cold for a little baby like her. Old Mrs. Li was very guarded and would never let her granddaughter leave her eyes for a moment, not even Tao Hongying. Even breastfeeding has to be done in the house, and Tao Hongying is happy with this. I have to say that the loss of the child left a shadow on the family. Ji Yin had no choice but to practice crawling hard. But who will tell her why she has to climb up like a frog and kick her legs hard to run farther? This posture is too ugly and not suitable for a beautiful girl like her. Jiexi Jian ran in from outside. Seeing that her sister was flushed from exhaustion, she couldn't help but step forward to tease her. Haha, my sister is like a big toad. Sister, work harder, yes, kick your legs, kick your legs. When Mrs. Li saw her granddaughter turned over and became motionless, she guessed that she was angry, so she quickly yelled at her grandchildren. Have you followed me to the fields? You are as dirty as mud monkeys and you haven't washed yourself yet. Jiexi and Jian ran out in a hurry, making trouble and being extremely naughty. Old Mrs. Li hugged her granddaughter and coaxed her. Don't be angry, Funiu or Grandma will take you out to bask in the sun. The good news immediately made him happy and danced. She has been trapped in the room for a month, but she is suffocating her to death. After Mrs. Li wrapped the good news into a cotton ball, Mr. Li, who went to the city, also came back. He drove the donkey cart of the village chief's family and said loudly with a smile, Mom, I bought sorghum seeds and millet. There are many more people in the city than before, and everyone is busy farming. Old Mrs. Li stepped forward to take a look and also smiled. As the days pass, everyone starts to get busy. Whether the year will be good or not depends on spring, no one dares to be lazy. Ji Yin looked straight at the bags of grain and seeds on the donkey cart, her eyes shining. There are no sorghum seeds in the fields in her small courtyard. I can't say I'm going to be a thief again. Li Lao carried the seeds into the warehouse and was about to return the donkey cart. Old Mrs. Li went through the inventory at home and kept it. Taking this opportunity, Ji-yin stretched out her little hand and put the bag of fine seeds into the space. Old Mrs. Lee turned around and was startled by the empty ground. Where are the grain bags? She looked around but couldn't find it anywhere. Looking at the smiling granddaughter, there is nothing else I don't understand. She lowered her voice and asked her granddaughter secretly, Fu Niuer, do you want the seeds to be useful? Ji-yin responded. Are these enough? Do you want your second uncle to buy more? Ah, ah. What about millet and vegetable seeds, do you want them too? Grandparents and grandson were having a lively time asking and answering questions, but Li Lao left and came back again. He shouted in the courtyard, Mom, the village chief and some old uncles are here. Orange Mrs. Lee quickly picked up the good news and went out. Sure enough, the village chief and several old men next door were all in the courtyard. This is obviously something to say. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 58. Chapter 58. Who is the thief? Mrs. Lee quickly invited them into the house to drink tea, and then asked Jiaxi and Jian to go to the fields and call Li Lao-san and Li Lao-si back. Soon, the hall was filled with people. The village chief is also cheerful and straight to the point, explaining his purpose. Sister, we came here to discuss something. My 6 brothers, together they have 20 acres of land. But they are in poor health, and it is very difficult to farm every year. Furthermore, if the harvest is delayed, only grain rations will be left in addition to grain taxes. It was originally a fertile field. If you cultivate it well, you can always earn 2 taels of silver a year. It's a pity no matter what. He sighed and said again. So, I came here today just to ask your family if they want to take over these 20 acres of land. Your family has a lot of labor, so these 20 acres should be busy. In autumn, in addition to paying the grain tax, just leave some food rations for these old brothers like me. Of course, they can also do some small jobs in the fields on weekdays. No one will be lazy if they can do their best. Do you think it can be done? Mrs. Lee was a little dazed after hearing this. She turned to look at her 3 sons. They were also surprised. Brother village chief, when it comes to this matter, are these old brothers suffering too much? Otherwise, you will still be cultivating the land when we are done with our work at home, we will go and help you. No, that's not the case. Uncle Zhao from next door was the first to speak. Sister, we are all semi-disabled people. Every spring plowing and autumn harvesting, we really can't bear the heavy physical work looking at the good fields, but the messy planting makes us feel uncomfortable. If your family takes over, this will definitely not happen again. As for us, we will help to some extent. In autumn, just get a ration and you won't starve to death. The other old men also chimed in one after another. Yes, I have 3 acres of land last year, I only planted 2 acres, and the villagers had to help me. It's a pity that good land falls into the hands of cripples like us. Mrs. Lee saw that they were sincere. The 10 acres of land at home was indeed a bit small. She thought for a while and said, I know that the old brothers are well-meaning and want to take care of our family, but our family can't take advantage of you after all. Life is not easy, so our family will take over these 20 acres of land. Don't say that you only need 1 ration in autumn. From now on, you will eat whatever our family eats. Even if there is no harvest in the fields, you will not be short of food. That can't be done, the old men immediately objected. Although the Lee family's life is tight, they cannot be frugal because they have many children. The Lee family's food is usually the best in the village. Not only does Tao Hongying often buy white rice and thin noodles, but she also brings back meat dishes when she goes to the stove. If they eat with the Lee family in the future, the Lee family will have to feed 6 more mouths, which is a big loss. Yeah, we just need a few bags of sorghum. When you are old, you can't even do any work, as long as you have a stutter. Brothers Li and Lao are all soft-hearted, and they usually take good care of the old man. At this time, it is natural to persuade. Uncle Zhao, just listen to my mother. We brothers will farm the land well and harvest more grain in the autumn. Yeah, it's very troublesome for you to start a meal on weekdays. Didn't you boil the sorghum rice to paste the day before yesterday, so you don't have to eat the rice in the future? Li Lao-san was so honest that he made the old man blush when he opened his mouth. There is no woman at home, so they usually just mess around. It is common for the rice to be overcooked. Mrs. Li made the final decision, then let's do it. The village chief is here to write a document. From now on, the fields of several old brothers will be farmed by our family. Then our family will take care of the food and add 2 sets of clothes and shoes for a year. Write everything down, and we won't be afraid if someone gossips in the future. Several old men were all excited after hearing this, which was beyond their imagination. You don't have to worry about eating and dressing anymore. Uncle Zhao hurriedly said, if you write one more sentence in the document, from now on, all the firewood and vegetable planting at home will belong to us. No one can rob us, we can still do these jobs. Okay, that's it. The village chief slapped the table, his face flushed with excitement, and urged Li Lao to write the paperwork quickly. Li Lao took a pen and paper and wrote carefully and clearly. Then the 3 brothers and the 6 old men all pressed their fingerprints. Finally, it is the village chief who is the witness. For a time, everyone was happy. After seeing off the old men and the village chief, Mrs. Li hugged her granddaughter and didn't speak for a long time. Jiyan struggled to stand up and went to rub grandma's frowning brow. Old Mrs. Li came to her senses, kissed her granddaughter with a smile, and then called her sons to talk. We have added 20 acres of land to cultivate, but our family's manpower is still somewhat insufficient in this case. You two, go to the cattle and horse market and buy a mule. It is best to bring a trolley, which is convenient for pulling things. From now on, when Hong Ying Sky has a lot of things to do, he will also need it for picking up and dropping off Jiaran. Li Lao and others got excited when they heard about it. Adding more animals to the family is a big deal. Mules are not as fast as horses, but they are easy to serve and have good physical strength. Whether it's farming, pulling a plow or pulling a cart on the road, he's a good hand. It's a better helper for living than a donkey, but at this price. Mom, I'm afraid if I want 20 taels of silver, will my family be in trouble? Mrs. Li waved her hand and reassured her sons. Don't be afraid, I still have more than 60 taels at home, which is enough for spending money. Li Lao and the others became happy and shouted. Tomorrow is the cattle and horse market in the north of the county, let's go and have a look. Yes, it's best to ask every village, just in case there is a suitable one. In the future, there is no need to borrow the donkey cart from the village chief's house. Mrs. Li patted her granddaughter and smiled happily. Without that idiot Wu Kuiwa in the house, there is no need to be wary of her all the time. It's easier to talk and no one will interfere with the discussion. At this time, Wu Kuiwa, who was missed by Mrs. Li, was really in dire straits. She sat on the ground, slapping her thighs and crying. In a blink of an eye, it has been a month since I was kicked out of my home. In the coldest month of winter, she soaked in the cold well water every day to wash her clothes. Her hands were swollen like steamed buns and were covered in frostbite. But the old lady of the house only gives her 10 kilograms of sorghum rice a month, and she has to cook her own food to fill her stomach. Originally, the food was only enough for her to half fill herself. But Wu Ergu came over occasionally and found that she lived and fed by herself, so he came over to eat and live there. He would get up early, eat, and then leave, hang out in the casino all day, and then come back at night to eat and sleep. It is really much more comfortable than living without a fixed place before. This made Wu Kuiwa miserable, so she tightened her belt and ate closely with her younger brother. Everyone gained weight during the new year, but she lost a lot of weight. Today is the day of food distribution, and she is happy to have a full meal. As a result, as soon as he turned around, the food bag was gone. Who is the murderer? He actually came to my house to steal food. Why don't we strike him with lightning and kill him? It's a thing that will ruin his descendants and rotten claws. At this moment, everyone in the courtyard is cooking. She was sitting at the door and yelling like this, so naturally everyone could hear her clearly. No one wants to live a good life and suddenly be labeled a thief. Hence, the bad-tempered one came to the fore. Wu, before you start to curse, do you want to wipe your eyes? If you are blind, you think we are blind too. There is a thief living in your house. He lost things and blamed others. Why are you so big? His face. Wu Kuiwa jumped up from the ground with a roar, pinched her waist and shouted back. Whose house do you think a thief lives in? You're the only one who's blind. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 59. Chapter 59. New members of the Lee family. Who knows, the scolding woman was not someone to be bullied, so she banged the pots and pans hard. Who has a gambler living in his house, don't you know? Everyone should be careful when putting things away. They are afraid of being touched accidentally. They don't feel the smell themselves, so they just open their eyes and pretend to be confused. That's it, another woman also echoed. Just now, I saw with my own eyes a certain gambler walking away with grain on his back. Needless to say, what he was doing was selling the grain to play a few games. Everyone thinks that everyone is just like your family, carrying a few kilograms of grain as a treasure. Some people even called the host's old lady. Ms. Gao, what kind of hard work did you find? You can't ignore everyone just because of her. We have been renting your house for several years. Who can offend such a donkey dung egg that spoils a pot of soup? It's not a comfortable stay. The old lady, who is also the landlord of this courtyard, glared at Wu Kuiwa and snorted coldly. Shut your mouth, if you dare to cause trouble again, I'll knock your teeth out. Have you finished washing your clothes today? Why don't you go to work? Wu Kuiwa was furious, but she was even more afraid of how she would survive the next month without food. Shamelessly, she stepped forward and begged the old lady for a long time, and then she withdrew another 10 kilograms of grain. From now on, she would deduct 1 kilogram every month and make up for it slowly. There was a fuss and an hour wasted. She worked until dark before she finished all the work. At midnight, Wu Ergu came back dejected. As a result, the house is cold and the stove is cold. Not to mention the food, there was not even a sip of hot water. He became angry and got angry. What do you do at home all day? Why don't you cook or boil water? Wu Kuiwa jumped up directly from the cold bed. You still have the nerve to say that? I want to cook, but how? Where is the food? Where did you take the food? Return it to me quickly. Wu Ergu woke up and then remembered that he had sold the grain. His eyes rolled around as he responded. How do I know? Did you forget where to put it? Wu Kuiwa couldn't bear it anymore, so she stepped forward and gave him a slap in the face. You're a murderer, you only know how to gamble. That's my monthly ration, you dare to steal even this. What will you do in the future? Drink the northwest wind? You still have the nerve to eat when you enter the house? You have been eating, it's my food. Wu Ergu was hurt by the beating and was unhappy, so he threw his sister away. What are you making a fuss about? Isn't it just a little grain? I will buy you 200 caddies if I win money later. Why don't you die? You still have 200 caddies, but I haven't seen 2 caddies. What will we do in the future? Shall we starve to death together? Wu Kuiwa sat on the Kong and cried loudly. I really don't know why I got such a gambling brother. The family is so single, her parents are both dead, how can she really kill her younger brother? Obviously, Wu Ergu also knew this. He lay down on the bed and didn't care how his sister cried. He yawned while giving an idea, tomorrow, just go back to Li's house and ask for some. Wu Kuiwa turned around and kicked him. How dare you say that? I was kicked out of the Li family, who should I blame? It's not you who got involved. Wu Ergu didn't care, you gave birth to 2 grandsons for the Li family. They really dare to starve you to death. Wu Kuiwa didn't say anything. Thinking about Mrs. Li and Mr. Li, she was really frightened. But if the food is gone, we can't starve to death. Finally she stayed up all night, and the next day with her rumbling stomach, she was so cruel that she kowtowed to the old lady of the host family, finally asked for a half-day leave, and returned to Qingshui village. The weather is warm, and the villagers can't sit still. Old and young people go to the fields from time to time. As a result, everyone looked strange when they met Wu Kuiwa on the road. Some people guessed that Wu Kuiwa came back to cause trouble, so they took a detour to the back road and ran away. Old Mrs. Li carried the good news on her back with a bamboo pole and was also tidying up the vegetable garden behind. Even though a few old men promised to do the work in the vegetable garden, they were either without arms or legs, and no one could bear to see them. So, if you can help more, leave less for them. The villagers came running and shouted from afar, Madam, Wu Kuiwa is back. Looking at her like that, I'm afraid something bad will happen. Mrs. Li frowned and the villagers thanked her. She hurried back to the front yard, where Jian was chopping firewood, and she was not honest in her work. The two competed to see who could chop the firewood into finer pieces, and almost smashed their fingers. Just when they were getting scared, they saw Grandma coming out in a hurry, and they were startled. Without waiting to say anything, Wu Kuiwa had already arrived at the door. Mom, I'll come back to see you. Without saying a word, Mrs. Li picked up the pole in the corner of the courtyard and rushed out. Jian was stunned for a moment, and then touched the door bolt and the sweeping broom. 3 grandparents, plus a good news, Wu Kuiwa was beaten like a mouse running away. She didn't expect that her family would be so cruel and would beat her whenever they saw her. At this moment, I wished I could spread my legs more, but I was still hit by 2 carrying poles, and the pain was excruciating. She wanted to wait for her son to come back and help him to plead for mercy, but she waited until noon and saw no one. After finally asking the villagers, she found out that Jian had not returned from studying and Ji Yi had gone to work as an escort. This is hopeless. Wu Kuiwa also wanted to lose her face and go to the door of Li's house to cause trouble. As a result, Li Lao'er and Li Laosi drove a strong mule back from a distance. She was so frightened that she hid quickly. Li Lao'er made it clear when he sent her to do hard work. If she dared to go home and cause trouble, he would strangle her to death and throw her into the river. She has no support from her natal family, and her younger brother is selfish. At that time, no one will dare to stand up for her, and his death will be in vain. At that moment, the hatred and disgust in Li Lao'er's eyes made her dare not doubt. The courtyard door of the Li family was finally opened because the sun came back. The villagers followed, and at this time they all poured into the yard to watch the fun. How much money was spent on this mule? It is so strong. Yes, it won't be a problem to use it for 7 or 8 years. This is much more useful than the village chief's donkey. Li Laosi didn't like it, so he gave the mule water and brushed its fur. Jian also wanted to come forward, but was pulled aside by Li Lao'er. Be careful of getting kicked. When there is green grass in a few days, you can lead it out more often. Once it gets familiar with you, it won't kick around. Jian nodded quickly and watched from a distance. Jian couldn't help but shouted, "Dad, let me ride." Li Laozi is the most pampered child. He hugged his nephew and son and sat on the back of the mule with a smile. The two boys were so happy that they didn't dare to move. It was very funny. But in the village, the children's eyes were red with envy, and they desperately grabbed their father's hand and shook it as hard as they could. Finally, all the naughty boys present were picked up and made into little warriors riding donkeys. The mule has a bad temper. He turns his lips and is very irritable. Fortunately, Mrs. Li found a cabbage and threw it over. When the mule has good food, he can tolerate the naughty boys. The old men next door heard the commotion and came over to watch the fun. They are people who have been on the battlefield, and they are more intimate with animals. Uncle Zhao simply said, "Fourth brother, there are many children in your yard. It is inconvenient to raise such a big animal. Why not put it in our yard and we will help take care of it? Yeah, you don't have to worry about cleaning the manure and feeding the grass. We can still do such small tasks." The other old men also agreed. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 60. Chapter 60 comes with more than a dozen layers of filters. Li Laozi didn't want the old men to be tired, so he wanted to refuse when he opened his mouth, but Mrs. Li went to speak first. "Okay, I'll just bother a few old brothers from now on." Ever since they signed the farming document, the old men have been eating with the Li family. I have to say that with the addition of 6 people, the work in the kitchen has increased a lot. Fortunately, the old men are not picky. There is nothing to say, as long as it is cooked and hot. So, the Li family didn't find it too troublesome, but the old men still felt a little guilty. A person is only willing to drink a bowl of porridge and a piece of cake for each meal. Just eat more than half full. They don't want to take advantage of the Li family. Now, they have a job and can help the Li family share the burden. From now on, I will definitely be able to eat to my fullest again. Sure enough, Mrs. Li handed over the mule to them, and the old men were very happy. When the children were satisfied, they took the mules back. Brothers Li Lao and others gathered some things and renailed the pig pen on one side of the Zhao family's gate. From now on, it will be the mule's territory. For a whole day, there was no one in front of the Li family and the Zhao family. The whole village, young and old, came to see it and were naturally envious. Such a good mule can't be bought without 20 taels. There is also the 80% new cart and plow pole, which can't be moved without adding another 25 taels. The Li family has not yet started farming in spring, but it is already so prosperous. Some people are envious, and naturally others will be jealous. When gossiping in private, you can't avoid making a few sour remarks. The Li family is just showing off they only have a few acres of land in total, so they just bought livestock. It's more than 20 taels, and I don't know when I can make it back. I'm afraid that they will work in vain for 2 years, and only one mule will be left. It happened to be a coincidence that the village chief happened to hear him and scolded him. "Don't talk nonsense if you don't understand. What do you know?" He took the opportunity to tell old man Zhao about allocating 6 fields to the Li family. Even if the Li family has a lot of labor, 30 acres of land is quite a lot. Buying an animal will save the family effort. Besides, the 4th brother is an escort, the 4th brother's wife is good at cooking, the 2nd brother is a gentleman, and the 3rd brother can do masonry work. It is not difficult for the Li family to make money, but they are only short of 20 taels of silver. You have time to gossip, why not think more about it and learn some skills, so as not to be jealous of other people's lives? The villager blushed after being scolded, thought for a while, and shouted unconvinced. With 20 acres of land, the Li family only provides food rations, which is really an advantage. The village chief stared, taking advantage? Do you want me to make peace with you? The villagers immediately shrank their necks. 20 acres of land, to put it bluntly, 1 acre of land can produce at least 20 taels a year. Actually, there have been too many natural disasters in recent years, and it is good to be able to make a living just by producing 1 year. Moreover, old man Zhao and the others are getting older. Will they care about illness or disaster in the future, or not? It's hard to say whether to take advantage or to suffer a loss. The village chief sneered and waved his pipe and pot. My heart is like a mirror, but I have to speak loudly. I'm warning you, our village has just gotten better. You dare to mess up the good omen in the village with your broken mouth. Don't blame me for being cruel and kicking you out. Don't dare, don't dare. Everyone even lowered their heads and spoke their words to assure themselves. They were really talking happily just now. Thinking about it carefully, it seems that the village is really lively when the Li family comes. Even people from other villages will not frown and go around when they see them. Instead, they will take the initiative to say hello. This one asked Mr. Li's fourth daughter-in-law if her cooking skills are good, and the other asked if the Li family's little granddaughter is really lucky. I heard that whoever hugs her will win money. I won't say how noisy it is in and outside the village. I just want to say that the Li family still lives a step-by-step life. Seeing it is March, Jiyan finally learned to crawl. Not that kind of frog pose, but a serious one on all fours, crawling very fast. Now the whole big Kong at home is hers. Tao Hongying came in with rice porridge and salted duck eggs, and saw that her daughter's face was red from exhaustion. She couldn't help but laugh and said, "This child is so energetic." He was even more noisy than Jiaxi Jian and the others when they were young. When Mrs. Li meets her granddaughter, she automatically puts on more than 10 layers of filters, so that she can see her everywhere. Have good energy, and we will keep you in good health. Tao Hongying was helpless and knocked on her rice bowl at her daughter. Jiyan quickly climbed over, took the rice bag and stuffed it into the old lady's hand. The old lady laughed and quickly tied it in front of her. Jiyan then took the spoon and put it on a bowl of white rice porridge and half a salted egg yolk. Before she could eat, she was salivating. Finally tried salted egg yolk. I'm so excited, how can I break it? Last year, I arranged for my family to collect duck and goose eggs, and during the Chinese New Year, my family also started eating them. But she was too young and couldn't get it. Now that she is 8 months old, her diet has become much richer. Although the little hens are still not very obedient, they often spill everywhere. But she still insists on eating by herself, practicing again and again, all in order to eat independently as soon as possible. In order to eat more and grow up quickly. The days pass faster and faster in the hope of good news. Just when Jiyan stood up tremblingly from the windowsill for the first time, spring plowing also started. Except for Mrs. Li and her granddaughter who are cooking at home, everyone in the family has gone to the fields. Jiaran College also had its spring plowing holiday, and Ji also rushed back from outside. In this way, the Li family has 8 strong laborers. Jiaxi, Jiang, and Jiaxi together count as one. The newly purchased mule was named Daking. It was hitched to a plow and went out early in the morning and came back late to plow the fields. For this reason, in addition to fodder, the Li family also feeds them a meal of beans every day. Uncle Zhao and the others are responsible for delivering water and food to the fields. They also plow the vegetable fields of the 2 families, carry ridges and plant rapeseeds. In short, no one, old or young, was idle. Jiyan felt sorry for her family but couldn't help her, so she went out to get things from the courtyard every day. A piece of pork today, a pile of eggs and duck eggs tomorrow. The day after tomorrow there will be a bunch of fresh radish and cabbage, and even 2 hens. Of course the most common ones are rabbits, because the rabbit couple in the small courtyard are so fertile. They can't even feed their family with cabbage or radish. Good news can only help them quickly realize the value of rabbit life. Mrs. Li is also used to it. She never refuses anyone who comes. She does whatever her granddaughter gives her without any hesitation. Originally, Seasons like spring plowing and autumn harvest are the most tiring times. How many meals does the poorest family have to eat? If you don't have enough to eat, you won't have the strength to work if you don't eat well. As a result, the Lee family's dinner table was richer than ever. Almost every day, I have a pot of braised rabbit, and occasionally stewed chicken and mushrooms. Scrambled eggs and steamed egg custard are indispensable every day. The young and old of the Lee family had oily mouths after eating, while Uncle Zhao and the others next door were frightened. Does the family have enough food? Will the whole family starve to death after spring plowing? But the Lee family was afraid that they would not be able to eat without worry. They gave a lot of food every time and refused to take back any leftovers. The weather is getting hotter and hotter, and food eaten overnight may spoil easily. It's hard to say, the old men can only eat in silence. The village chief was thinking about his old brothers. After finally finishing his work at home, he came over to take a look. As a result, the old brothers didn't look tired at all. Instead, they all gained weight. Looking at the breakfast table, each person has a large bowl of 2-meter porridge, a greasy salted duck egg, and a large plate of pancakes. He couldn't help drooling, so he divided half of the duck egg into his hands to satisfy his craving. In addition to cooking, Ms. Lee also cleans the house and provides logistics. When she had free time, she would walk around the village, asking for seeds. Cabbage, radish, snap beans, cowpeas, mustard greens, purple eggplant, pumpkin, in short, as long as there are seeds. Then, take it home and give it to your granddaughter. End of this chapter.